Hey guys, February 4th, 2026, here with your after hours recap and nightly watches video. Kind of doing these as a 2-for-1. I got a little bit busy in the afternoon after market close, so I couldn't, kind of get my thoughts out there, but I just figured kill two birds with one stone right now. Let's talk a little bit about today's destruction. And boy, was it destructive. Obviously, I think I saw this somewhere. Today was like the fourth worst momentum down day ever. And if you just looked around the market, there was carnage everywhere you looked. Obviously, AMD with a 17% gap down. A Palantir yesterday rejects on earnings, and then today down 11%. SanDisk at one point was down 14%, finished down 16, which is kind of nuts. Micron closed down 10. Palantir, as I mentioned, I think at one point was down 14, closed down 12. Bloom Energy at one point was down 20, closed down 13. ASTS at one point was down 16, closed down 11. Effectively, AAOI at one point was down 20, closed down 13 and a half. Cypher was down, and you just looked across the board. 12 at one point was down 20 as well. ONDS, down, and I mean, I could just go across the board, down 15. LUMN down 25, UUUU down double digits, almost 20% at one point. TSCM down 14, KRMN down 15. You get the picture. It was just absolute brutality out there. And one of the things that you've kind of heard me mention is, the chop is not really going to stop in the QQQ if this is what you're paying attention to. What will help the chop is if you finally have a correction and then ultimately, a follow-through day. But there are places that are seeing incredible follow-through. Obviously, one of the names that I have been long, XOM, I was hammering the table on this thing, in November, in December when I got positioned, and ultimately a super massive breakout recently. Again, yeah, maybe not the fastest name, but who can deny that trend? Past couple days, massive up moves. The chemicals today had a huge day, DOW being one of them, and not the only one. You see massive moves like this. You're seeing massive moves within transports, IYT. Transports are on fire, right? Look at what they're doing with an XPO, just massive back-to-back days. Look at what they're doing with an Old Dominion right now, massive moves. These things are moving. Like, all the money is leaving tech and all the money is going into industrials, it's going into trucking, it's going into toilet paper. I kind of joke that XLP is toilet paper. It's not quite toilet paper, but it is consumer staples. And one of the things you guys have heard me also tweet about and mention, when you get XLP outperforming financials, when you get XLP outperforming tech, it's risk off, guys. If you're long some of this stuff, I think that's amazing. I am long XOM. I bought some VLO yesterday. It's very nice to see that work. But if you're long energy, which by the way, I look at XLE and obviously CVX and XOM play a big role in that. But this is decade-long highs, guys. This is not bearish. This is super bullish for energy. You get a big move up, a massive consolidation, a huge breakout. And, breakouts like this bases like this don't typically resolve in 3-4 weeks. That's not to say that, maybe the move can't consolidate here, but you better be paying attention to the energy sector. I do, and I continue to reiterate, I think that it is a sector that has a possibility for us to still be talking about it 12 months from now. Why? Well, if you think about it, we are in the AI revolution. Well, that sounds good, but how do you power up these buildings that consume super amount of energy if you don't have nuclear power, which is slow, although super effective? You don't have really a bunch of wind and solar, and our grid is lacking. Natural gas seems like a pretty good play. XOM being one of the largest players, Chevron being another very large player within that space. And then you look at a stock which makes generators, like Cummins. Just on a completely vertical run here, nonstop, hanging out near highs. Very, very fantastic to see. So you've got transports going, you've got toilet paper going, you've got, even regional banks are going. You've got a lot of stuff. You've got commercial shippers, right? TDW. Marine shipping, this is pretty dang good. FRO is not looking too dang bad. Really nice trend here. STNG is looking pretty good. So you could look in that sector. That is also looking pretty dang good. Travel stocks even. If you look at like a VIK or you look at CCL or you look at RCL, I mean, this looks like it is ready to break out. So, what are we going to do if these get breaking out and also crude oil is going up? That's the one little thing that's kind of got me confused, but that is definitely something to be aware of. So we have money going into these other places. Meanwhile, IGV, and I still do think that it's possible that the IGV could have bottomed today, at least for a snapback rally. Does not mean that IGV and software is going to be in a renewed uptrend. One of the things that I actually think could be a pretty good trade over the coming months is long IGV, short SMH, so long software, short semiconductors. I don't know if that is going to work out amazing, but it does feel like a pretty good idea considering how oversold software is. Doesn't mean they're going to be into an uptrend, but something to keep an eye on. LRCX, starting to yank here. KLAC starting to yank a little bit. ASML starting to yank a little bit. TSM's been in a pretty big move recently. Obviously got some of that back on the back of Google CapEx spend. AVGO, which is one that I'm short, they got a nice little pop all the way back into the 20-day. And I didn't cover any more today. I covered some yesterday. So not really a ton I can do there. And then you got a pop right into the 20-day, and then in after hours did roll back into the 320. So about 10, 12 bucks off those highs in after hours. As I'm making this video, silver futures, which I believed has been topped, getting its ass absolutely kicked, down almost 10% at the moment, right back into the 50-day. I mean, just kind of nasty when you look at some of this intraday action, a complete waterfall on silver. So, for the sake of some of you, I hope you guys are short some of this stuff. I know I was short SLV, $107. And now you've got yourself a nice little move lower. And I know that silver futures or silver itself is going to be trading at 68 bucks right now back into the 50-day. So pretty impressive washout on some of this stuff, trading basically down to brand new lows. Congratulations if any of you guys are sitting in silver, working out pretty dang good. If you are still sitting there, and there is, and I still think that silver has topped. I just think that, when you get paid this quickly, you'd almost be a moron to kind of not take it off the table. And I didn't really go to reshort this thing, today after the 3-day bounce. But very nice job for some of you guys if you got reshort today. So really a lot going on in the market, a big risk off kind of day. I mean, gosh, even at one point, Rocket Lab was getting crushed. A KTOS, another one that comes to mind, just getting absolutely smoked. I mean, everywhere I looked, it was an ass kicking. And meanwhile, stocks like XPO and Old Dominion Freightliner and these names are just going up that nobody is trading, which for better or for worse. I kind of think it's a good thing. Everybody is, kind of distracted by, oh my God, look at what's going on in Bitcoin. It keeps going lower and lower and lower. And while I'm having fun, just kind of trolling the fact that it's still going lower and I'm getting some enjoyment out of watching, I'm not really making money on it going lower. So, it's just some enjoyment, but I am trying to be positioned long and short in things that are going higher, oil and gas, and then trying to be short names that are indeed going lower. Today, I took a short in STX at 440 bucks. I thought that this was a fairly easy setup right in here as soon as we lost VWAP, and then just a nice all-day fade. I did take some covers off into STX, and I also shorted MU. Not only did I short a little bit 414 in pre-market, I shorted a little bit more right at the open, 407, and then I shorted a little bit more on the break of low a day, and then I did get 2 covers off on this as well. If I'm not mistaken, I will tell you exactly where I did. Some covers off at 381 right in here, and then some more covers off at 267. So literally basically at these lows. So that was pretty good. Obviously in after hours, you had a little bit of a squeeze back up. You are trading back down to 385. And I also happen to think that these memory stocks probably have a little bit room to go lower in them. SNDK trading back down to 600 bucks itself. Again, I happen to think that, at least for now, these moves are probably a little exhausted, but we'll see. Massive, massive move down we are still seeing in the silver market right now. My eyes are basically distracted by what we are seeing at the moment. Hard to make sense of what we are seeing, but it does indeed look topped. I almost can't believe what we're witnessing. I almost kind of thought that there was a chance we would retrace this entire move back into 50, but boy, I did not think we would do it in like a week's time. Pretty unbelievable when you think about, how this is acting in terms of volatility. I mean, just kind of nuts, and don't put it past silver going all the way back down to 50 bucks, and then maybe finding some support at this prior high, where it once consolidated at these highs. So just pretty interesting. Anyway, with that said, let's kind of start to talk about some of the names on the watch list video. I'll try to be quick about this. A lot of these stocks still have earnings on deck. Bloom Energy, one of the names that got absolutely smoked. We don't know what earnings are going to be like, and they have earnings tomorrow, so nothing to do with it. CCL doesn't have earnings for a little while out. I do like this cup and handle. I personally really like this tight day. We will see what is going on with RCL and with VIK. Those are the two that I'm watching with the CCL going into tomorrow. I mean, pretty interesting if we can kind of get going over this 33 level. Really over even today's highs, 32.50 will be a pretty nice spot. CIEN, obviously with LITE, another one of these names that just got absolutely crushed today. But I will leave it on watch because it is in a nice steady uptrend. If we can continue to build out the right-hand side of this base and then ultimately find a little tight spot to get long, even if that's against the 50-day, that will look pretty interesting. Not a name that I can necessarily trade, but this is one of those tankers that is in a pretty nice uptrend. ECO, I think it's pretty simple. Just needs to get going over 41. These names are always a little trickier to trade. I think pullbacks into ascending moving averages always tend to be the way, or undercut and rallies for me is normally the best way to get involved on some of these. So I don't know that we're going to get all the way down here. Breakouts tend to be a little bit more difficult, but 41 bucks would be a potentially nice breakout spot. Ford and General Motors continue to act well, and we should look at GM. Doesn't matter what the market is doing these past 2 days. General Motors continues to be green. You may not love it, but that's an earnings gap up. That's an earnings gap up. And this market has been, to put it lightly, shit. So this acting this well, while the market has been quote unquote shit, should really have your eyes on a General Motors. When the market gets a little easier, a General Motors can very well go higher from here, and Ford is one of those to pay attention to. It does have earnings coming up here pretty soon next week, so maybe not one to buy, but continues to respect the 50 simple moving average all the way up. So very, very nice gap up on earnings. Obviously, this market has sucked since October, and Ford hasn't done a whole lot, so something to keep an eye on going forward. FLS also has earnings coming up, so not one I can really touch. Earnings coming tomorrow, so nothing really to do here. In an ideal world, you kind of gap down into the 50, you start to find some support, and then you build out from there and give us an entry over the coming days. Google posted earnings today. I thought earnings were fantastic in after hours. It ran right up to yesterday's highs and did nothing. If you ask for my personal opinion, I would not be chasing a gap up on Google. Software right now, tech right now is kind of out of favor. Palantir had a good report. Palantir got smoked. AMD had a good report. AMD got smoked. Not saying that has to happen with a Google. We are down about $7 at the moment to about 326. I would personally just leave it alone for now. And I'll tell you this, gun to head, I don't know that the market's going to reward them for spending $175 billion in CapEx this upcoming year. I don't know that the market rewards that right now. I could be wrong. I could just be talking out of my ass. I have no idea. I will definitely react to price, but just my gut feeling says for now, with the market being this choppy, with the market in particular, the Qs looking like they can use a bit of a pull, and a bigger pull, not just this 1-2 day choppy nonsense that we've been living with, like a longer 10% correction that could very well be at the start of this year. Why not? We get one every year. Maybe even a little bit steeper, just something that people aren't expecting. Money continue to flow into XLP, into IYT, into maybe the XLV, into XLE, these other places that people don't want to be. And meanwhile, the totally undisciplined will just continue to look for bottom on software, will maybe chase after, you've gotten a rally on the IGV right into declining moving averages. You're just going to get retail to chase that, and it probably gets slammed at the declining 20 or the declining 50. Meanwhile, nobody for some reason is talking about the energy stocks. I don't understand it. Nobody's really talking about the XLP and consumer staples. I mean, some people are. Most aren't. Most retail traders don't own them. I mean, I don't know how much more somebody has to pound on the table about XOM for an entire month, but you can't ignore a base like that. It's obviously gone here. You look at Old Dominion Freightliner, it's obviously not buyable here, but tight setups, higher lows, 3 weeks tight setups, those are definitely things that I'll be watching on going forward within the energy space. And look, at a moment's notice, you could start to get a bounce in the IGV, you could start to get a bounce in some semiconductors, but I look at a Palantir, and guys, this is a start of a stage 4 decline. I would encourage anybody to go look at an Abercrombie, or go look at an MMYT, or go look at Netflix, or go look at any other stock on planet Earth that is in a very nice, long, prolonged uptrend, consolidates a stage 3 top, and then starts to roll over on good earnings. And it's why I tweeted yesterday. Somebody tweeted yesterday, oh my God, Michael Burry must be in his feelings right now because Palantir's gapping up on great earnings. And I said, whoa, let's slow down. This stock's already broken and in a downtrend. You don't even run into the declining 20, and in 2 days you get the full-on colonoscopy. It doesn't look good at all. And if I had to suspect, we could probably look back in 6 months from now and Palantir is lower, despite people not wanting to hear that or hear my opinion on that. And we probably do end up lower indeed over time. Robinhood, again, another one, just completely destroyed. This thing does not look bad. A huge move up over the last few years. Stage 3 top, roll over, stage 4 decline. Yes, do we snap back at some point into the declining 50? Probably. That's kind of like my natural base case looking at the IGV, but guys, you just can't be positive on some of that stuff. Not when other things are out there making new 12-year highs like the XLE. So you better be paying attention to where money is going. I repeat that all the time. Money just doesn't go somewhere for a month and then it's done going there. Institutions have billions and billions and trillions of dollars in some cases to allocate to sectors and groups and themes. And right now, it's not tech, it's not software. Yes, you can get an oversold rally, but it does not look good. LUV, fantastic move, really, really nice job. You had the high volume close a few days ago. We talked about this one a few days ago, and ever since then, really, really nice move up from there. I do not own this one, but UAL is another one that is kind of holding. We'll see if this thing can get going here pretty soon. UAL, DAL, and AAL. So these will be pretty interesting. Obviously, I mentioned the problems with crude oil going nuts. And how that maybe plays into some of these names where it's the biggest variable cost for some of them. I don't know how that's going to play out. NVT has earnings coming up. Today, some volatility. I talked about it yesterday. I cannot buy stocks this close to earnings. RCL, absolutely, still a nice little chart here. Still a fantastic little consolidation, acting fairly well considering the weakness of the market. Still has a high volume close level over 346. Looks pretty good. SLB, cannot complain. I'd like to see this thing go a little bit more sideways so I can get involved. STNG, similar story. Please stay under the pivot, tighten up, build a higher low, and I will be looking for an STNG down the road. TDW, similar story. Built a nice base here. Looks like it's starting to turn up. These shippers look pretty dang good. TTMI on earnings. not the worst reaction considering the market. Yes, it was down double digits. We'll see if this thing can continue to build, let the 50 catch up, build a tight day, and we'll see if we can get involved from there. Viking, another one, very, very nice tight day. I'll be watching these as a basket of stocks, and we'll see how these things act. And then on the home builder side, obviously Toll Brothers is probably my favorite of the bunch. Yesterday, this is a total nonsense candle, but nice little inside day today. And if I look at the XHB, a little bit slower of the bunch, but it does look like pretty massive accumulation volume coming into this thing in comparison to, all the distribution that has taken place in here. Really, really nice accumulation. I look at the ITB, it does look like this thing is trying to go higher. Nail, similar story. So I will be watching this group for some potential follow through. It would be nice. You've got Pulte, you've got Toll Brothers. I mean, these things are acting well despite the market acting like crap. So remember, where is money going? Where is money leaving? Money is leaving semiconductors, money's leaving software stocks, money's leaving high flyers and high growth names, the Palantirs. It's even leaving your Microsoft, it's leaving your Robinhood, it's leaving AppLovin, and it's going to home builders. It's going to transports, it's going to energies, it's going to healthcare, it's going to anywhere except the places that 99% of retail is focused on, and that's what makes it that much sweeter to make sure that you are paying attention to those things. So I will be paying attention to Nail, to be playing it basically on the back of XHB, and ITB as well looks pretty dang good here. I don't know that we're going to get even an inside day. We've been seeing some of this action where, you're just looking at like the IYT and you're just getting like these 3 giant up days in a row on a big pickup in volume closing right at the highs. So, look, that's where money's going. You got to be paying attention. It just is what it is. So anyway, hopefully you guys all had a pretty good trading day. I know, I did. I got short a couple of things. Those are working well. It's hard for me to buy some of these things that are up 3-4 days in a row. I can't really do it. I can't chase an Old Dominion on day 3. Plus, who the hell would have known that Old Dominion is doing this up 10% on the day? I mean, pretty incredible. But let's just see if we can get a little bit of a quiet, profit-taking day after earnings, and then a high-volume close setup over that 208.50. Again, Old Dominion, sexy? No, but that's where money's going. John Deere, sexy? Not at all. But look at the monthly on this thing, right? This is where money is going right now. And it just is what it is. You're either paying attention to it and you embrace it, or you're over there staring at the stuff, getting its ass absolutely kicked for no reason. New lows on Bitcoin in the overnight session, almost 70,000, and Ethereum probably under $2,000, in the blink of an eye here pretty soon. And we can all get a good little chuckle at that. Anyway, hopefully you guys all traded well, and I will see you all bright and early tomorrow morning. Cheers.